Donald Trump lost the presidency, and yet he never lost control of American politics. That sentence makes people uncomfortable because it forces a realization no one wants to admit. Power doesn't always live where we think it does. Sometimes power lives in attention. Sometimes it lives in identity. Sometimes it lives in the arguments we can't stop having. Trump doesn't need the White House to shape what America argues about every day. He already won something deeper. This is not a story about elections. This is a story about control. Why Trump still determines what the media covers, what politicians react to, what voters fear, what institutions defend. This video explains how Trump became the gravitational center of American politics and why escaping that gravity has proven impossible. Democracy assumes something critical, that power changes hands, that when leaders leave office, the system resets. But what happens when the system doesn't reset? What happens when one figure continues to dominate thought, emotion, and reaction long after formal authority ends? That's where America is now. And it's why this moment matters. When Trump left office, many believed the story was over. The narrative was clean. He lost, he was banned, he was investigated, he would fade. This belief wasn't naive. It was institutional thinking. Institutions assume removal equals resolution, but culture doesn't work that way. Trump didn't exist only as a president. He existed as a symbolic rupture. And ruptures don't disappear when you ignore them. Trump's critics celebrated silence as victory, but silence didn't mean disappearance. It meant compression. Support consolidated, anger fermented, identity hardened. Trump wasn't gone. He was incubating. Here's the mistake America made. It confused position with influence. Presidents govern, but cultural figures dominate. Trump crossed that boundary early. He stopped acting like a politician and started acting like a force. For his supporters, he wasn't a leader. He was resistance. For his critics, he wasn't wrong. He was dangerous. Both sides kept him central. That's not failure. That's dominance. Every attack kept him relevant. Every defense kept him alive. Every silence felt temporary. Trump became unavoidable. There is an office more powerful than the presidency. It has no term limits, no elections, no confirmation hearings. It's called attention. Trump occupies that office effortlessly. He doesn't compete for attention, he absorbs it. Politics now reacts to Trump, not the other way around. Bills are framed against him, candidates define themselves around him, news cycles orbit him. That's control. Trump understood something early. In an attention economy, being talked about is power, even if the talk is hostile, especially if the talk is hostile. And once attention becomes power, institutions stop being referees. They become players. That's when trust breaks. That's when rules stop convincing. That's when identity replaces agreement. And that's where the real story begins. Courts, elections, legitimacy collapse. Why persuasion stopped working. Why control doesn't require majority support. Once attention became the real source of power, institutions faced a problem they weren't built to solve. They were designed to govern rules, not emotions, not identity, not distrust. Courts issue rulings. Elections produce outcomes. Media reports facts. But none of those things work if people stop believing the system behind them. That's where America crossed a line.
For decades, institutions relied on assumed legitimacy. They didn't have to explain themselves every time. They didn't have to convince everyone. They just had to function. Trump didn't destroy that legitimacy. He exposed how fragile it already was. There is a difference between disagreement and distrust. Disagreement says, "I don't agree with you, but I accept the process." Distrust says the process itself is corrupted. Trump moved American politics from the first into the second. Once that happens, persuasion dies, because persuasion requires shared ground. Trump's critics argue facts. Trump's supporters argue intent. Those arguments never meet. This is why debates feel pointless now. Each side believes the other is not mistaken, but manipulated. That belief hardens identity, and identity does not negotiate. Watch what happens when Trump is involved in a legal case. One ruling, two realities. In one reality, the system is holding power accountable. In the other, the system is weaponizing itself. Both realities feel complete to the people inside them. That's the danger. When reality splits, no institution can unify it. Trump doesn't need courts to rule in his favor. He only needs courts to be doubted. Elections work the same way. Once outcomes are no longer universally accepted, winning loses its stabilizing power. Trump understands this instinctively. He doesn't fight outcomes, he fights belief. This is the part many still don't want to admit. Facts didn't fail. Context did. In a high-trust society, facts persuade. In a low-trust society, facts are weapons. Each side uses facts to confirm what it already believes. Trump thrives in this environment because he doesn't rely on proof. He relies on alignment. Alignment feels stronger than evidence. It feels human. And in moments of stress, people choose what feels human over what feels correct. Trumpism is not a traditional ideology. It has no strict doctrine, no policy purity test, no philosophical consistency. That's not a weakness. That's the point. Trumpism is identity-based. You don't join it by agreeing with policies. You join it by recognizing yourself in the fight. Us versus them. Voice versus system. Defiance versus compliance. Identity movements don't need coherence. They need loyalty. Here's a truth most democracies learn too late. Control does not require majority support. It requires a committed base, constant visibility, and institutional friction. Trump has all three. While opponents argue about coalition building, Trump maintains intensity. And intensity outperforms size in attention-driven systems. This is how minorities dominate narratives. But identity alone isn't enough. It needs fuel. And the most reliable fuel in politics has always been economics. Not statistics, pressure. That pressure doesn't announce itself. It accumulates quietly. And when it surfaces, it doesn't ask for nuance. It asks for blame. By the time economics enters politics, it's already emotional. People don't remember inflation charts. They remember stress. They don't remember unemployment graphs. They remember fear. They don't remember quarterly reports. They remember whether life felt manageable. This is where Trump's influence becomes durable. Because memory is not fair. It is selective. It is emotional. It is shaped by pressure. Trump doesn't argue the economy. He invokes memory. And memory is harder to disprove than data. Ask someone why they support Trump economically, and you'll often hear the same phrase, "I felt better back then." That sentence terrifies economists because it's immune to correction. You can't audit a feeling, you can't refute a memory, and you can't persuade someone out of their own lived experience. Trump understands this instinctively. He never says, "The numbers prove it." He says, "You know it." That's alignment, not argument. When people feel economic pressure, their thinking changes. They become short-term focused, risk-sensitive, and more tribal. Scarcity narrows perspective. It reduces tolerance for complexity. It increases desire for certainty. This is why economic pressure doesn't just affect wallets. It reshapes politics. Trump doesn't offer complex solutions. He offers direction. And direction feels like relief.